So we've been discussing the general principles of how to create speed, specifically creating a lot of propulsion. In the last couple of videos, we talked about the strategies for how swimmers typically pull through the water to maximize the amount of propulsion they create. We talked about the specific positions and the duration that they try to maintain those positions. However, it's not just the specific movements that they use, it's how they do it that makes a difference. And what really matters is that there's an acceleration of the limb throughout the pull or the kick. And so what starts off relatively slow is going to end up relatively fast. And you see that with all strokes and all propulsive actions. There's an acceleration of the limb. What we'll do today is see what that looks like and how it applies to each of the strokes. So we'll start here with endurance freestyle, and what you can see is that there's patience in the front, and then as the pull comes through, there's an acceleration of the hand, there's an acceleration of the limb. And so that's going to be, regardless of the distance, there's still going to be an acceleration, and it's still going to be a pretty strong acceleration even though it's a distance event. And so what you'll see is more patience in the front, but there's still going to be a strong acceleration of the limb through the back of the stroke. You can really see how the rate picks up towards the back of the stroke. And so a lot of times when athletes try to pick up their stroke rate, they do so in the inappropriate times. They either just try to pick up the recoveries or they rush the front of the stroke. But what really needs to happen is there needs to be a stronger acceleration of the limb. Now we'll take a look at sprint freestyle, and what swimmers tend to think when it's time to sprint is that they need to move their arms as fast as possible. And while their arms definitely need to move faster relative to slower speeds, there's still a patience in the front and there's still an acceleration of the limb. And the only way to accelerate is to start slower and then build the speed. And so if everything's moving as fast as possible, you can't have an acceleration. So there's some patience in the front, and then you can see towards the back of the stroke, the hand speed and the limb speed really starts to pick up, and there's an acceleration that really gets the hand through the back part of the stroke, and that's going to create more propulsion. It's also going to help facilitate the recovery in the arm into the transition to recover the stroke over the water. So you can see patience in the front and then acceleration in the back. And even at really fast speeds, this is an Olympic final, you still see that show up. Patience and then acceleration. So backstrokers here. There's patience obviously when they're setting up the stroke, but then once it's stroke set up, they start to build pressure, and it's not till the very end right there where there's a real acceleration of the hand and the forearm. And so there's definite patience during the catch. Once the catch is set up, then they start really starting to add the pressure and pick up the speed, but it's not towards the end until there's a full acceleration. And so that's what they're really looking for, is once where the hand gets towards the back half of the stroke, that's when the pace really picks up and where they really see the speed. So see patience, and then you can really see the hand speed pick up there, and that's what we're looking for. And so same thing as in freestyle, see in backstroke. So set up and then accelerate the hand through. So we'll watch the same thing here with fly, and then patience, application of force, and right there you really see the hands accelerate through the back of the stroke. And while this obviously creates a lot of propulsion, it also facilitates the recoveries because the arms now have momentum, and it's going to be a lot easier to swing them around. So patience, and then building the speed and building the pressure as they go through. See that here with another athlete, patience, and then accelerating the hands through right there. You can see the hand speed picks up, and they're using that hand speed to create more propulsion to help go faster. Different angle here, you can see the same thing as the hands get towards the back half of the stroke, they really pick up the speed. So breaststroke here, you can see patience, and then hand speed builds right there. Once the elbows are starting to squeeze to the body, that's where the hand speed really picks up and accelerates forward. So right there, you can see the hand speed really picks up. So there's patience, and then a final squeeze at the end that really gets the hand speed up. Same thing here, higher rate in this athlete, but still patience, and then a relative acceleration of the hands, so that the hand speed is picking up right there towards the end of the pull. So breaststroke kicking here, it's going to be the same thing. The feet are pretty patient in setting up, and then they start really picking it up, and they really accelerate through. You can see the feet really snap through the back half of the kick, and that's what's really going to create a lot of propulsion. So it's the same principles as when using the arms. It's just happening with the legs. There's a real acceleration of the kick towards the back half of it, the patient setup, build of pressure, and then a real acceleration. Same thing here with this athlete. So set up, build, and then really snap through the back of it. So when moving water backwards, accelerating the limbs is really going to help them create more propulsion as they go through. Like I said earlier, the most difficult aspect of it is not just achieving a really high speed, it needs to be achieved patiently, or else it's not really going to be nearly as effective, and they're actually going to lose some of the propulsion they create if they rush it too much. So that's one of the big challenges in swimming, is being patient yet aggressive. So you can see these athletes here, they set up the kick and they really snap it right there. Snap the back half of the kick as they go through. Another athlete here, set up the kick and then snap it through, really trying to finish the legs, really trying to finish the kick with really high tempo. So last piece we'll look at is underwater dolphin kicking. And this is going to be a little bit more difficult to see because it's happening much faster and the rates are much higher as compared to using the arms or breaststroke kick. But what we'll see is when the feet reverse, they're going to necessarily stop in the water and then they're going to start to accelerate forwards. And right there, you can see the final snap is really going to be fast. So it builds a little slow, and then you can see the foot speed really picks up there. So the feet reverse, it starts a little bit slower and then really snaps through at the end. And the foot speed really starts to pick up throughout the dolphin kick cycle. Take a look at it, another athlete. So steady, and then right there you can see the foot speed really pick up about midway through the kick cycle right there, and that's what's going to help them create more and more propulsion with each and every kick. So same thing, you can see when the feet reverse, they're not moving as fast, and then that flick right there, see in that one frame how much further the feet move. They're not with one kick. So boom, two, and then right there's much more distance covered with that kick, and that's really an acceleration of the kick. And so that's what's really hard about dolphin kicking, is they have to reverse speed really quickly and then also try to build the pressure throughout the kick by building the speed, but it's already at a really high speed, so that's what makes it pretty difficult to do really well. Still, the same things apply. To increase propulsion, there needs to be acceleration of the limbs and acceleration of the foot speed. So we've discussed how to accelerate the limbs in order to create more propulsion. You've seen how every stroke, the same basic principles apply. There's an acceleration of the limbs, speed is built, pressure is built, and that's going to result in more propulsion with each stroke. So it's not just the specific arm path that's taken, it's how there's an acceleration of the limb in order to create more propulsion for the same arm path. So even if an athlete doesn't improve their actual pull, they can improve the effectiveness of it if they learn how to accelerate their limbs more effectively, more smoothly, in a way that results in a high hand speed at the end or high limb speed at the end, so that they can create more propulsion and get more speed.